Hello and welcome to Black Topaz TV. Greetings everyone. I'm here and I wanted to give you a recap on Atlanta Season 3, Episode 1. I'm not sure if anybody's been watching it, but the episode number 1 for the third season was called Three Slaps. And the episode opens with two men on Lake Lanier. I don't know if you're familiar with Lake Lanier, but Lake Lanier was actually a town that was flooded to make the lake. They told the people that they had to move, but the people chose not to move, and they said, yeah, if you're not going to move, that's your problem, and they just flooded it. So it's a rumor that it's haunted. So the two men were on the river, and the black guy was telling the white guy, how he remembers when he was little, he felt like he was being pulled down by the river, and he thinks it may be haunted. And the white guy said, you might be right. And then he goes off into this tangent, and he starts saying like things like, how white is like you can buy being white. And then he turns his head and he's like just acting really weird, and he turns around and then he turns out to be a ghost. And there's all these hands come out and they snatch the black dude and they pull him down into the river, and then snap, we realize that we are in a classroom with a little boy named Laquerees who's actually sleeping on his desk. He's in the classroom and the teacher is at the blackboard, and she is telling the students that they have a field trip coming up to go to the movies, to go see Black Panther 2, I think it was, and everybody's really excited about it. So he gets up and he jumps on top of his desk and he starts dancing, and all the kids are laughing and making noise, and the teacher's trying to get him off the desk, and he jumps down. Then he starts, dancing and acting a fool, and he goes to the principal's office. So then the principal calls his mom, and his mom comes in, and she just has had enough of whatever's going on. So it seems like, she's fed up with it, and it seems like she doesn't care about her kid. And the school department, they're trying to convince her to put him in remedial classes, and she said, no, don't put him in remedial classes, just send him to detention. He just doesn't listen, send him to detention. So then they go out in the hallway and she's taking him home, but as the teacher or the counselor who's walking by, she hears some commotion in the hallway, and it's Aquarius standing by the lockers with his grandfather and his mother's making him dance. Go ahead, do it, do that. Now, Deb, she's making him, do exactly what he was doing in the classroom. She's trying to embarrass him, to show him that, you think it's funny, but it's really not funny. So the teacher walks by and she says, well, that's enough. Don't do that. That's enough. Well, you stop that right now. And the mother turns to her son and say, these white people are going to kill you. They're going to kill you. And then, he starts to say, he wasn't doing nothing. His mother's like, I don't want to hear it. Then his grandfather slaps him in his face. 1, 2, 3. I guess hence the name of the episode, Three Slaps. And he says to him, get what you doing? Get it together. So, the mother is standing there with her son, and the teacher says, I'll walk him back to class. So she's walking him back to class, and she whispers to the little boy, don't worry, I'll get you out of this. So the next scene, Laquarius is at home, and he's asking his mother, is there anything to eat? I mean, he doesn't do any chores or anything. She says there's spaghetti in the fridge. He don't want the spaghetti, but he gets the spaghetti anyway. And he sits down at the table and he starts eating the spaghetti. And then she tells him, stop. You shouldn't be watching TV while you're eating your food. Okay. So then the doorbell rings, and the mother goes to the door, and it's Child Protective Services and the police. And it's the Asian lady, and she's standing there, and the mother's like, what do you want? And, the lady tries to say the little boy's name. She can't even pronounce his name properly. And so the mother's like, you know what? Just take him. And she threw him and a bunch of his clothes out, and they put him in foster care. And the family that they give him to is actually a lesbian couple, I guess. And they adopt black children. And the way they treat these black kids in this thing, they make them farm. They don't feed the kids. The way they fry chicken is, I guess the the docile one in the relationship, her way of frying chicken is putting chicken legs in the microwave for 12 minutes and feeding it to the kids. And Laquarius is like, I'm not eating this nasty food. And they keep making them feel like, you're not trying to be a part of the family. You're being disruptive. And, we can't have you do that because you're messing up our perfect family. So they have them like go into, like, what do you call those? Like the food or like the organic markets and stuff at the local farmers market. And the Laquarius had a sign on and it said free hugs. And this white guy walked past and he says, oh, that's so sweet. Whose hugs? Is Hugs your father? And dude's like, no, it's not my father. So they're like really detached from reality. It's really crazy. So the Aquarius sees the police and he runs up to the cop and he tells them, please get me out of here. My two mothers, I have two mothers, my foster parents, and they're crazy. And I get me away. They don't feed us. And I'm really, I want to get away from them. So when one of the mothers walks up, she explains to the policeman, that they have a kombucha site over there and they adopt black children and they take care of children. So the officer's like, okay, I see what's going on. It's almost as if they don't think that these people will cause any harm to children because of their relationship with each other. I don't know. It was disturbing. So they let them go back with the family. So they were sitting at the kitchen table and they were eating their dinner. And the next scene, I think social worker comes over. This time it's a black social worker that comes over to the house and she's checking on the kids. And the mother with the dark hair, the one who's like the more dominant one, she's talking to her and she's asking her, where's so-and-so? And she's like, well, she's sick. She taking her place for now. And she's looking around the house. She sees that, there's dog hair all around the house and it's really filthy. And she sees one of the little girls who's been coughing the entire show. She's sitting on the couch and she actually has a piece of tissue in her hand and it has blood on it. And the social worker asks her what's going on here, and the docile one says, oh, it's blueberries. We give it to her for her health. It's good for her, good for cough. It's like medicine. It's like medicine. And the black lady looks and she shakes her head. Then she asks the girl, she says, can I have a washcloth? And they both said no. So I guess they don't have washcloths in their house. I got washcloths. So it goes from there to the social worker asking Laquarius, is anything that he has any concerns with? And he says, I'm just really, really, really hungry. And then she says to him, don't worry, I'm going to get you out of this. So, he has a little hope. He's like, okay, finally somebody's actually listening to me. So then the dominant one, the lady with the dark hair, she walks over to the social worker and she tells her, there's some things that I need to talk to you about that you may not be aware of. So come over here, let's have a short discussion. So she walks over with her and they leave. And the kids are sitting at the table and they're eating their microwave fried chicken. And Laquarius is looking like, I can't eat this. And then the dominant mom with the dark hair, she comes in. I think her name is Gail. She comes in and she's like really, really like, stress and tense, and she slams the door and everybody's looking at her, and then she says everything's fine. Then she sits down at the kitchen table and they start eating the chicken, and she says to Laquarius, you know what you are? You're a snitch. So he finished eating his chicken, he went to bed, and he's having this nightmare of like, the social worker who came to visit him, he has a nightmare that her head is cut up and it's in a container in the refrigerator beside the pickles and stuff. And he looks around and it's this really, really tall man, and it has a chihuahua, the chihuahua head of the people's dog. I forgot to tell you, they have a little dog and they feed the dog ground beef and meat and stuff, and they give the kids like nothing. They give them like little bits of food and like little berries, and they're abusing them. But it's surreal. It's really surreal. But anyway, so the little boy is dreaming about his grandfather, and then the thing slaps him and says, "What you doing?" So then he wakes up and he starts to throw up. So after he throws up the bad chicken, he goes in the kitchen. He asks the subservient mom, he asked her what's going on. And he sees all the other kids walking out the door, and he's like, what's going on? She's like, yeah, we're going to the Grand Canyon. He's like, the Grand Canyon? Why are we going to the Grand Canyon? So he walks up closer to her and he asks her, where are we really going? And, she couldn't tell him. And then the dominant mom, Gail, comes out and she's like, yeah, well, you need to get dressed and come on. We're going to take a trip. We're going to take a trip. So he gets himself together. He has on layers and layers of clothing. I guess because he's a foster kid and he assumes, I have to always carry all my things with me because I never know what's going to happen. So they get in the van and they're driving. And the two ladies are in the front seat and they're talking. And they're chatting and it starts to get dark. And then the kids are looking at each other and they're communicating with each other with their eyes and not with their words. And they're pretty much letting each other know that, they're about to die and there's nothing they can do about it. So they fall asleep and then it's nighttime and the kids are sleeping. And they park close to the Lake Lanier River. As a matter of fact, they park right next to the river, close to the river, that where the TV show started, and they're talking about, that they let their little dog go, and then the subservient one is trying to tell Gail that she doesn't want to do this, and why didn't anybody stop us? We went for all these things. I would have thought that somebody would have stopped us because, we're not fit to even be doing this, but they just gave us everything and helped us, and we're like, we can't do this. So they get back in the car and they're planning to commit suicide and, take the kids with them. So they get back in the car and they start to drive and there's music playing in the background. And I just want to let you know that this episode was inspired by a real life 2018 murder-suicide of the Hart family. You can look that up and also look up the history of Lake Lanier. So they're driving and there's like really sad music playing. And the lady keeps looking back and she sees a little boy's hat. She's looking back and she sees a hat and she sees one of the kids breathing at the back of the door. So they get near the bridge where Lake Lanier is, and the little dog moves and she lifts the hat up and there's no one under the hat. And then Laquerees open the back hatch and he falls out of the back of the van and their car goes over into the river and they die. Laquerees picks himself up. He walks all the way back home. He finds his key under the rug like Mama always has for us. And he goes to the kitchen and they pan to him and he's washing dishes. He is really appreciative now for the things that his mother has done for him because he's been through a really, really crazy ordeal. He's washing dishes. He's cleaning up the house. He's making sure things are straight. He's really apologetic to his mom. And he asks her, she asks him, is he all right? And he's like, I'm fine. And then he asks her, Mom, is there any spaghetti in the fridge? And she said, yeah, baby, there's spaghetti in the fridge. So he gets his bowl of spaghetti. The house is clean because he came back home and he cleaned up because he realized everything I was complaining about I already had. So he cleans up and he sits down in front of the TV and he turns the TV on and it's a news report. And the news report is, they're saying that there were some foster kids that left on the side of the road and that their two foster parents went over the side of the bridge into the lake. He turns the TV to cartoons. The show pans out, and that's the end of that episode. So I really liked the season opener episode. It touched on a lot of issues that we should really look into. Everybody's child rearing is not the same. Everybody you think is a bad parent isn't a bad parent. That lady's raising her kid the best way she knew how, and I thought it was rude for them to come and take him away. But she let him go so he can see how crazy it was. And she was right when she told him, you keep it up. You keep messing around. These white people will kill you. And they almost did. All right. So that was episode 1, season 3 of Atlanta. Please come back later on for my review of Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Okay? Thanks for listening and have a great evening. Peace. Atlanta, Atlanta, Atlanta. Bye.